What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. I see you, Liddy, Jason, Mark, Japan, CID, Reed, Steve. Thanks for being in here. Hit the like button if you could. Let's see how we did yesterday before we bring in the stars of the show. Let's be honest about this one. Buckets absolutely saved us from a disaster day. He goes 3-0, but Mackenzie's two picks are SportsLine picks. They don't come through. Not a good first NBA day, but I'll tell you what, we brought in some really heavy hitter NBA guys. We have so many NBA picks today that even I'm surprised. We've got Zach, we've got Propstarz, we've got Amags, we've got Martin Green. Proppy, I got to start with you because I looked at the show sheet no less than, 90 seconds ago, and I thought I saw a mistake. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have 4 prop picks today.
4 prop picks, indeed, Sia. This is the real opening night tonight. Lots of teams in action. As I like to talk about, I think early in the season you find the most inefficiencies and opportunities, a.k.a. opportunities, in the prop market. And there is a prop tonight that I think really highlights this and is a multi-unit play for me. It's my favorite prop on the board tonight. If we were 2 weeks into the season, I'd probably say it's my favorite prop of the season, but it's an absolutely slam spot for me. Bet responsibly, of course. But yeah, it's a spot that I absolutely love. Can't wait to share it.
Zach, great to see you here on a Wednesday. You got to be excited about, we've got a lot of NBA coming up. How you doing today?
You know what? I love this time of year, Sia. From now until the end of March, it's going to be a grind. So it was when college basketball starting here in about a week and a half, and you've got to be studying on this now to get ready for college basketball. But NBA, I do a different approach than Propstarz. I like to see everything, see the new lineups, especially from an ATS standpoint. So I'm going to build my way up, but I do think I've got a good play for you guys tonight.
All right. And Amags, I don't want you to feel like you're second fiddle. We do have the World Series starting on Friday. So you're here to give us a World Series play, maybe offer some opinions on Dodgers Yankees, correct?
Yes, sir. I have one play that if you saw, our good buddy Matt Snyder there, he gave out an MVP pick and a pick on the actual series. I will not be going against him and trying to do the series pick there, but I will give out an MVP pick as well that I think kind of goes hand in hand with what he was saying. So yeah, some good stuff coming.
Well, I see you wearing the Yankees hat. Maybe Jeff Sternberg is in the chat to give you all of the business. I see you already shaking your head. Martin Green, how are you doing today? We got a couple of plays on the pitch, correct?
We do indeed, Sia. Yeah, well done to Buckets for going 3-0 yesterday. Mm-hmm. Glad to see him coming through there. Got a Champions League play for today and something for El Clasico at the weekend. But yeah, if you've got any questions, fire away on the YouTube chat.
That's really good advice. If you have questions about anything, MLB, NBA, soccer, PGA related, I'm going to give out a round 1 3-ball again later in the show. Let us know in the chat. Hit the like button if you could. Martin, I'm going to go right back to you. Let's talk about the Champions League plays. What are the plays on the pitch?
Thank you very much, Sia. I like a few picks today. I do quite like Manchester City minus 2.5 in their game. I think they'll win it pretty comfortably. I also quite like both teams to score in the Dynamo Zagreb game. That looks like a really good bet to me. But my favorite one that I picked out for the show is Atalanta minus 1.25 against Celtic. This game begins in about 45 minutes, so I'm glad you came to me first. If you do like it, go and get it in now. Celtic's limitations were brutally exposed when they lost 7-1 to Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League, their last game at the start of October. They really dominate the Scottish Premiership, but they tend to struggle against elite European teams, especially when playing on the road. Their recent form hasn't been great. They only beat Ross County 2-1 at the weekend. They drew with Aberdeen. Beat Ross County, then drew with Aberdeen. They're not playing great anyway. And I think they could be outclassed by a very strong Atalanta team who have won their last 3 matches in very convincing fashion. So that's my favorite play for today. If you want to push it a bit further, you can go Atalanta minus 1.5. And you should get odds of about plus 115 on that. And just while I'm on the show, quickly looking ahead to the biggest game of the season, El Clasico takes place at the weekend, Real Madrid versus Barcelona. promises to be a really entertaining game. Real Madrid are coming off an entertaining 5-2 victory over Borussia Dortmund last night, but their defense has been really leaky in recent weeks. So I do think that they are going to concede. They remain devastating in attack. Barcelona are 3 points clear of Real Madrid at the top of the table. They've scored 33 goals in just 10 games so far, but they also concede a goal per game. Both teams to score over 2.5 goals has paid off in the last 4 meetings between these teams. So I don't see any reason to change it now. Going with it again this weekend at -138. Bit juicy, but I think it's worth the squeeze.
All right. The juice is worth the squeeze. Proppy, go ahead.
It's no secret that I'm a massive Martin Green fanboy. I just want to point out that Martin's color-coded with his bookshelf. His shirt literally matches his books. It's just really impressive, and just wanted to give him a shout-out for that.
Well, that's very interesting, and I'm sure that was purposefully choreographed. I do want to ask, Proppy, I'm going to ask you, you have a couple of props to give out now. You got a couple of props to give out later in the show, but Mark Buckholz is in the chat, and Proppy, he wants to know, and I'm sure Martin Green wants to know, as a Philadelphia 76er fan, thoughts on if the Sixers can pull off the W with no Embiid or George? Proppy, go ahead.
Tough without Embiid, without Paul George. However, I think this Bucks team is pretty ripe for the picking. They'll be without Chris Middleton. We've seen Tyrese Maxey really ascend into a fantastic player. I also like all the additions the 76ers made, adding to the bench guys like Eric Gordon, Caleb Martin as well. So I think they can hang with this Bucks team, and that's reflected in the spread. I expected the Bucks to be a slightly bigger favorite, but yeah, I think the Sixers team certainly capable of pulling off the upset. I think Tyrese Maxey will have a big game tonight as well.
Zach, not asking for anything official here, but it's a 3.5 point spread. In other words, the Sixers getting 3.5 points at home, of course, without Embiid and George. Your thoughts on this one?
I think it's a good play for the 76ers. Anytime you have shock value going into the season, it's going to value the underdog, and that's what the case is here. I think the opening line was 4.5 favorite for the Philadelphia 76ers. So see that line move flip. You expect that, but it's value for the underdog. As Proppy said, this 76ers team is used to not playing without Joel Embiid. That's what made Tyrese Maxey this option one type of player. You haven't even seen Paul George on the floor yet, so that's not something you have to adjust to. And a nugget on this game for the Milwaukee Bucks, their road opener, each of the last 4 years, they have lost 3 times, and the one time they won was by just 2 points. What's the spread tonight? 3.5.
There you go. Wow. I thought you were actually asking, but it was a rhetorical question just to set up your close, which was fantastic. Hey, listen, if you want, NBA season literally started yesterday. I mean, it kind of really starts today with way more teams. If you want analysis, impromptu analysis like that, you know where to tune in, and most of you do every single morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Just incredible stuff, but of course, on SportsLine, you can find incredible stuff too, including the articles, the picks, simulations, and all of that. All right, Poppy, let's get to 2 of your first 4 picks. We start with Josh Giddey.
Indeed, I'm giddy for Giddey tonight, Sia. I'm going to go over his combination line of 24.5 for Josh Giddey, who is now the starting point guard on the Chicago Bulls after being acquired in the offseason with a trade with Alex Caruso, who landed in Oklahoma City Thunder. Josh Giddey, when given minutes, has been a highly productive player in the NBA. Look at his sophomore season where he averaged 16, 8, and 6 as the starting point guard for the Thunder, playing 31 minutes a night. I expect very similar usage right out the gate on the Bulls. Similar minutes as well. I also was very impressed with him in the international play this offseason. I think Giddey has a lot to prove as well, considering his role was diminished on the Thunder and they ultimately traded him. So I think he has a chip on his shoulder, and I think this line, this combination line of 24.5 is severely depressed, and we won't see it under 28.5 for the majority of the season once he has a big game tonight, because he is certainly capable of stuffing the stat sheet and filling it up. He's a triple-double threat every time he steps on the court. So love Josh Giddey tonight, over 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And then I'm going to that Philadelphia 76er game versus the Milwaukee Bucks, and I'm going to actually fade Giannis. However, I'm fading his rebounds and assists. 19.5. That is a very large number for Giannis, for anyone. Giannis averaged approximately 18 combined rebounds and assists last season. So I'm not sure why this number is 19.5, especially right out the gate. We know with Giannis, it's a war of attrition. They want to preserve him. They don't want to load him up with big minutes early in the season. Look at last night as a prime example. There wasn't a single player on the floor in either game that eclipsed 36 minutes last night. So very unlikely Giannis is going to do that on opening night here as well. Considering this is a bloated, inflated combination line, I think it's a very sharp spot to fade him.
Bloated combination line. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with Propstarz. Absolutely love it. Let me ask you this. I think Japan was asking in the chat, Proppy. Josh Giddey, if it skips up to 25.5, do you still like that?
Very comfortable with it there as well.
Okay, very comfortable. We got Josh Giddey, we got Giannis, and we got two more coming from Proppy later on in the show. Zach, before we get to your pick, Martin, there was a question. I think Brad Betts is putting some picks in the chat, but I think he wanted to ask you Luton versus Sunderland, both teams to score. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't seen the odds, but I really like it. Yeah, I really like that play. Sunderland have scored in all 10 of their games so far this season, so I do think they'll find the back of the net. And Luton always score in all of their home games. They're a good team going forward, but they struggle at defense. So, yeah, both teams to score looks great. I would back that. I'll definitely have a bit of that.
All right, let's move along. Zach, we've got this is great. See, sharp guy's going to take an under, right? We've got Warriors, we've got Blazers. What's the play?
Yeah, I was shocked to see this total. 222.5 for the Golden State Warriors and Portland Trailblazers. But then I thought back to the matchups last year. It was an under series. 3 of the 4 games went under the total. And the one that did go over needed an incredible fourth quarter with the bench players and 66 total fourth quarter points. Barely went over that number. You look at the 4 matchups last year, the Portland Trailblazers were one of the reasons why the unders hit. They averaged just 104.5 points in those 4 matchups. And you look at their backcourt, one of the worst shooting backcourts in the NBA. Anthony Simons shoots at about 43%. Scoot Henderson last year, 39%. And I look at this Golden State Warriors team. I think there's going to be a subtle difference in the opening night game tonight without Klay Thompson in your lineup for the first time since 2011. Had the adjusted role last year, whether it was in the starting lineup or off the bench, but he still was producing 18 points per game. So for the first time since 2011, he will not be a part of this Golden State Warriors lineup. You have new options off the bench with Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton. I think it's going to take some time to adjust there. Give me the under here on 222.5 for this opening night game within the Golden State Warriors and Portland Trailblazers.
All right. Love the play. And I love what you said about the adjustment with not having, for once, not having Klay Thompson on the roster. That makes a ton of sense. These game one adjustments with new teams. I mean, listen, we saw it with the Knicks yesterday. I mean, I don't know how good the Knicks are necessarily, but you got to adjust to no Dante, no Randall, and then trying to get Cat involved as well. So always a tough climb in the beginning of the season for some of these new rosters. You know what's not a tough climb? Joining BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. All right, we've kept Amags quiet way too long. We got to get to him. We got to get to my pick. We got to go back to Proppy. We got to get to your questions. We're going to do it right after this message from our partners.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
All right, we got a lot of picks, a lot of questions in the chat. Before we get to Amags, I want to point out it looks like Japan likes Zach Edey over 7.5 rebounds at -145. Propstarz real quick. Tobias over 15.5 points at -125. Your thoughts?
I don't mind it. Tobias still a solid veteran presence, returning to his old team. Not something I necessarily love, but it is a good matchup for him, and I do expect him to be out there for 32 to 34 minutes. So I'm a little bit salty with Tobias because of his lack of contributions to the Philadelphia 76ers, but I don't dislike the play.
That was a long way of saying, Eric, maybe that's a stay away. All right, Amags, let's go to you. We've got a World Series that we all should be very excited about. Two of the highest market teams in Major League Baseball face off. You've got an MVP play. I don't know if you want to give your thoughts unofficially on where you think this series is going to go, but talk to us about the very long shot MVP that I kind of like. I love this number. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I gotta, I already gave Sniper a shout out once. I gotta give him, let's say, two more shout outs. One being that he already talked about Mookie Betts, and I think that the number he was talking about, I think, was plus 700, maybe 750, whatnot, somewhere in there. I do think that's you could toss some money on that. That's really solid. But if you want to go even further out, I'm talking Teoscar Hernandez at plus 2,700. He was 0 for 18 before 2 hits in the final game of that Mets series. He was atrocious. But before that, in the San Diego series, he probably would have won the MVP if there was that for the series. So a guy that had that 5-game hit streak, he had a hit in every game. He had 6 hits, multiple home runs, 7 RBIs. It was definitely something to remember, and then certainly something to forget right after that with the Mets series. I think the 2 hits in the final game for him of that series might be able to roll some of that momentum in here. Certainly no stranger to a big spot, and he should be somewhere in the middle of the order there. A lot of opportunities. And when I was looking up the stats per stadium, the only 2 stadiums that he has over 180 plate appearances, it might be at bats, but you guys get the gist, were Fenway and Yankee Stadium that he hasn't called home. So obviously his home stadiums, he's going to have a ton more at bats, but those away stadiums, it's Fenway in New York. And he's played a ton of games. He has some familiarity with these guys from being, on Seattle and, of course, Toronto. And there's certainly some familiarity there. So I think that Teoscar, that number is a little bit too good for me to not have something down on.
All right. And Jeff Sternberg, of course, enters the chat. Hey, Max, when you're talking, and he says, love the Dodgers in this spot. And he's got a few brooms there, which, of course, implies a sweep. Any unofficial take on Dodgers, Yankees, who wins this, how many games, anything like that?
So I saw that Sniper had gone with the Dodgers, and I don't think that that's a bad way to go. I think that they have a stronger bullpen, truthfully. Luke Weaver's great, but when you have guys like Blake Trinan on the other side, that's really tough. He's looking really good too. So the bullpen, I think, could be that deciding factor. The lineups, look, the Yankees actually haven't looked bad. They should be scoring a little more than they have. Too many wasted opportunities, but they've always found a way to win here. And the Dodgers on the other side have just looked relentless with their lineup. So I think that it could be 2 really heavyweight lineups in the battle. And then you look to the deciding factors. I think the bullpen is probably it. I lean Yankees just because I'm a fan. I love the Yankees. I'm going to be rooting for them the whole time. I think that getting plus money is probably the way I would go in such a big series where I think the teams are close. But I don't think Sniper's wrong at all to go with the Dodgers. I do think that bullpen is probably what scares me the most.
All right, fair enough. I'm going to move on to my golf pick, and then Proppy, we're going to go right back to you for 2 more props. I'm going to be super quick on this one. Not a ton of analysis needed. Round 1 3-ball. This is available at all books. Bo Hostler plus 115 over Andrew Putnam and Katsuraga. Katsuraga is a Japanese golfer. His OWGR World Golf Ranking is in the 200s. I don't think, even though he is probably more familiar with these grounds, I don't think he's going to be a huge factor. So to me, this is kind of a heads-up matchup. Both Bo Hostler and Putnam, both playing pretty well in terms of recent form, and both have good history. I would say Bo Hostler's history is a little bit better here. I think his form is a little bit better. I think his putter's a little bit better. I think the margins are kind of close here, but because I'm getting the plus 115, I wouldn't play this at minus 110. But because I'm getting the plus 115, I think it's worth the play. Give me Bo Hostler plus 115 over Putnam and Katsuraga. All right, let's move right back to the NBA. And before we go, and we got to go pretty quick, Prop, because we don't want to get the show to go too long here. But David Talk had a very appropriate message in the chat 10 minutes ago. He said, make sure you're signed up for SportsLine so you can get Zach or Proppy's props early. And that's so important for NBA season because and NFL season, really in any season that these guys do picks, because these lines do change. If you want to become a member of SportsLine and you're not already for some reason, sportsline.com/join. You type in the promo code winners, you get 60% off the annual plan. It's really that easy, and there's way more on SportsLine than anyone could ever think. Covers all sports, articles, picks, you name it. simulations, Mike McClure's stuff. It's all on there on SportsLine. So check it out at sportsline.com/join. All right. We got 2 more props, one of which, Proppy, I know is your favorite one of the 4. You've got the floor, my friend.
Thank you, Sia. Yeah, I'm going to start with Evan Mobley going over 15.5 points. Evan Mobley, fresh off of receiving that 5-year, $223 million extension with Cleveland. Well-deserved. Evan Mobley, if you're unfamiliar, is one of the elite two-way players. I would say besides Wembanyama, he is the best two-way player under 25 years old. That is how high I think of Evan Mobley, who I think is set for a true breakout season. Watching him develop offensively, he is very good player, capable of shooting from the perimeter as well. I think Cleveland's going to run a lot more offense through him this season, and I think he's going to average 20 points potentially. So going to take him right out the gate, going over 15.5 points, and that takes us to my favorite play on the board, a multi-unit play for me personally. That doesn't mean you have to bet that, but I'm talking about Jaime Jaquez going over 11.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Jaime Jaquez had a phenomenal rookie season. First team All-NBA on the rookie for the rookies, was absolutely phenomenal. He was an older rookie at 23 years old. Just came out the gate, very mature game. Then I watched him in Las Vegas, just dominated the summer league. He looked like the best player in Las Vegas as well. Had some international experience playing with the select team where he looked very good as well. Now he's set for a bigger role on this Miami Heat team who lost Caleb Martin, and then Josh Richardson is out tonight. I have Jaquez projected to play between 27 and 30 minutes. If that's the case, he's going to blow over this number of 11.5 PRA. His points is also 6.5, which I love as well. I think the true line, frankly, should be at least 16.5. I'd bet it over 14.5, frankly, just to give you an idea of how much confidence I have in it and why it's a multi-unit play for me. So love Jaime Jaquez tonight, over 11.5 PRA. If he plays 25-plus minutes, he will blow over this number.
I love watching Jaime Jaquez play on this Heat team. I liked him at UCLA. Zach, I'm sure you watched a ton of him at UCLA. I didn't think he would necessarily translate into the NBA as the player that he is, but he's gritty. He does everything, and hopefully he does everything for this PRA line. Absolutely love to see it. Let's see. There were a couple things in the chat before we get to the recap screen. Brad and CID, I hear you. We'll try to get some hockey picks on here. Good advice there. And there was one other thing I wanted to cover, and I don't see it anymore. And that's because you guys are so active in the chat. Proppy, did you have something?
No, I'm just.
I did real quick.
Oh, go ahead, Amags.
Sorry. So just really quick, I shouted him out already in the chat, but Zach and Proppy, when you put the thing up to sign for the signups for the website, I shouted them out because, I mean, if you haven't looked already, go look at what those two specifically. It was a great season in MLB, but Zach and Proppy absolutely crushed the MLB season. So that alone would be worth the subscription. And then you get all the other sports. Just awesome stuff.
And the thing is when they hit, they don't boast like me and like advertise it. They're just so humble. They just kind of like
That's why I had to say something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thank you for doing that because I think people think that, Zach, you're kind of like laid back. Proppy, sometimes you're kind of laid back too. And you guys are just smashing things across all sports. It's really impressive. Proppy, go ahead.
Zach was the #1 MLB expert at all of CBS. So kudos to Zach for the absolutely fantastic season, start to finish.
You'll never hear Zach say that, which is crazy. But listen, that's who Zach is. And I appreciate him for being on this show, for taking the time, but specifically for being on SportsLine and getting his picks out there. Really, really good stuff. Let's take a look at the recap screen. And I remember the other thing I wanted to get to was Liddy said, hey, let's get Jake the Snake on here and give out his MLB World Series pick. We're going to do that later in the week, Liddy. So everybody stay tuned for Jake to make yet another appearance. Zozo Championship Round 1. This starts tonight. I probably should have led with that. This is over in Japan. You got to get this pick in today because I believe the tournament starts right around 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I've got Bo Hostler plus 115 over Andrew Putnam and Katsuragawa. Amags, Teoscar Hernandez, World Series MVP at plus 2,700. Zack Cimini, Warriors, Trailblazers under 222.5 at -115. And Martin Green, Atalanta. Welcome to Atalanta, says Jermaine Dupree at -1.25, -125. Real Madrid, Barcelona, both teams to score and the over 2.5, -138. Propstarz, Josh Giddey, over 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists, -120. Giannis, under 19.5 rebounds and assists, -115. Jaime Jaquez, over 11.5 points, rebounds, and assists, -110. I believe that's his favorite of the four. And the fourth one, Evan Mobley, over 15.5 points at -111. Brad Betts very involved in the chat with his picks and with his questions. And he says, thanks again, team. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll do it again at 10 o'clock like we do every Monday through Friday. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of this. On behalf of Zack Cimini, on behalf of Propstarz, on behalf of Amags, Martin Green, Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. I'm the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge, and we rest our case.